Changqing, who was sitting near Zhang Yi, gradually became more and more irritated. He looked down at Zhang Yi and muttered to himself, "No, it's impossible, right?" Just as he had this thought, he heard Zhu Zheng's voice in his ear. "After careful consideration, I have decided that in the upcoming operation to encircle and destroy Eclipse Moon, the Tengu Squad will take the lead, and the Reincarnation Squad will coordinate with the Tengu Squad. Zhang Yi, on the other hand, will be the supreme commander on the battlefield, and the combat center will provide battlefield guidance." Once these words were spoken, the entire meeting hall exploded. Although they were all highly qualified individuals and would not normally lose their composure in the presence of someone as senior as Zhu Zheng, the current situation had everyone shocked beyond belief. "What? You want to let a mutant from the outer city be the commander-in-chief of this operation? What qualifications does he have? In terms of popularity or tactical skills, he is no match for Gao Changkong or Tu Yunlai. This is a bit too much of a joke." But Commander Zhu must have given this decision careful consideration. It seems that this Zhang Yi does have exceptional abilities. Some people muse to themselves. He was able to kill 4 members of Eclipse Moon, so he is quite capable, but can he command people like Gao Changkong and Tu Yunlai? Others quickly figured out the reason behind this. Is Commander Zhu worried that his achievements will make him too powerful? So he chose a mutant from the outer city, who is easy to control, to take on an important role. But if he's not up to the task and the third siege fails, that would be a big problem. Everyone had their own thoughts. Tu Yunlai looked shocked for a moment, but quickly regained his composure. Gao Changkong, on the other hand, was fuming with anger. Ji Yushin said angrily, "Who does he think he is, coming here to command us?" Gao Changkong shook his head at him. "Commander Zhu must have his reasons for making this decision. And I've heard that this Zhang Yi has his own unique way of doing things." Gao Changkong got along well with Baili Changqing, so he had heard some of Zhang Yi's exploits. Zhang Yi had a straight face. Both Zhu Zheng and Deng Yuanbo had already spoken to him about this matter, so he wasn't surprised. On the contrary, Baili Changqing was dumbfounded. He looked at Zhu Zheng on the stage and then at Zhang Yi, who had a calm face, before realizing that Zhang Yi had already known everything. He slapped his head. "No wonder you agreed to accept the position of captain of Tengu Squad. It turns out that Commander Zhu promised you such a great benefit. Once the mission to besiege Eclipse Moon was successful, the rewards Zhang Yi received would undoubtedly be huge, and he would also be able to become the hero of the entire Jiangnan region. Even in the entire Huashu Kingdom, legends about him would circulate in the folklore." Asking himself if there was such an opportunity in front of him, Baili Changqing would rush to grasp it. Zhu Zheng looked towards Zhang Yi on the stage. "Captain Zhang Yi, come up and say a few words." Zhang Yi suddenly got up and walked onto the front stage under the gaze of everyone. His gaze swept over the crowd at the scene, and he said a bunch of platitudes in a very official manner, so I won't repeat them here. "I will do my best to take down these evil Ronin and maintain the dignity of Jiangnan region as well as Huashu as a whole. It is my generation's duty to revive the nation's glory. Thank you. By the way, in the future, please address me by my official title at work, and don't use my real name." After the polite words were finished, Zhang Yi walked off the podium with a calm demeanor. At the special occasion, Zhu Zheng didn't waste time talking about too many things. The meeting ended quickly, and he left Gao Changkong, Tu Yunlai, and Zhang Yi behind to chat alone for a while. It was nothing more than asking Gao Changkong and Tu Yunlai to take a stand and support Zhang Yi's efforts. Tu Yunlia's attitude was very frank. As a professional soldier, it wasn't false that he had his own ambitions, and his doubts about Zhang Yi's ability also existed. But as long as the top brass decided on something, he would not go against it. And Gao Changkong also smiled and said that he would obey the decision of the region and fully support Zhang Yi's work. Zhu Zheng looked at Zhang Yi. "Next, the matter of you serving as captain will be communicated to the entire city to publicize you as chaos. This is something that will happen on our publicity outlets, and you need to reach out to the members of your squad and seize the time for training. Most importantly, familiarize yourself with your team members and make them trust you." Zhang Yi nodded. "I certainly understand this matter. However, I would like to ask, is there any news about Eclipse Moon now?" Zhu Zheng shook his head. "After they disappeared, there has been no movement. We even suspect that they left the continent from the harbor and went back to Neon to recruit." Zhang Yi frowned. "Back to Neon?" Zhu Zheng said, "That is their home base after all." He suddenly sneered, "Relying on the things they did here, I guess they must have a good reputation in Neon itself, so they can gather more Ronin to come. It just so happens that I also want to fight a beautiful battle to turn the tide." Everything was unknown. Zhu Zheng said, "Take this time to familiarize yourself with your team." He reached out and placed his hand on Zhang Yi's shoulder, patting it twice with force, his gaze containing expectations. "We will mold you into a hero, and your body also holds the hopes of the people of the entire Jiangnan region. So you must give it your all. Don't feel too much pressure, this time our preparations are solid. If necessary, Tu Yunlai and Yanyan army will also be deployed." Zhang Yi's pupil was a little dilated. "You even have to send out Yan Yunwei?" Yan Yunwei was the most important force in defending Blizzard City, and once they left Blizzard City, it would result in a huge reduction in Blizzard City's defense. It seemed that this time, Zhu Jing had really made up his mind. Zhu Jing nodded. There are no enemies within the region, the enemies are all outside. I have made comprehensive preparations, there is no need for you to worry about that. Zhang Yi naturally did not worry about Blizzard City in his heart. If the Yen Yunwei led by Tu Yunlai, the reincarnation squad, plus their Tengu squad were added, then it could be said that the armed forces deployed this time were at least 3 times stronger than the last time. According to Zhang Yi's analysis of Heavenly God Squad's combat power, unless they had found even more powerful helpers, there was almost no chance of defeat for the Jiangnan region in this battle. Zhang Yi nodded, his heart slightly at ease. I understand. After the meeting was over, Gao Changkong was drinking tea in the lounge on the first floor of the combat center, with his girlfriend Gu Man sitting in the seat next to him, as well as Bai Li Changqing. As for his vice-captain Cheng Jiushin, this person had always been rather impatient, and this time, knowing that Zhang Yi was going to be the leader of the operation, he had quite a few complaints. So Gao Changkong sent him away. Bai Li Changqing looked at Gao Changkong and said with some regret, in terms of ability, you are more suitable than Zhang Yi to take command this time. But he didn't say the second half of his sentence because that would involve some complicated things within Blizzard City. Bai Li Changqing had no way to change any of that. It was not that he looked down on Zhang Yi. It was just that as far as a commander was concerned, Zhang Yi was indeed no match for Gao Changkong. It could even be said that this was something Zhang Yi himself admitted. However, Gao Changkong smiled and shook his head, seemingly not caring about it. It was just that the fleeting regret in the middle of his eyes still could not be perfectly concealed. Since it's a decision made by the headquarters, there must be an intention. It's impossible for Commander Zhu to joke about the safety of the region. No matter who is going to be this commander-in-chief, I will do my best to cooperate. Bai Li Changqing smiled, it's just a name, when it really comes to the battlefield, Zhang Yi will have to rely on you as well. Gu Man's eyes revealed an annoyed look. But this title, however, is very important. Bai Li Changqing's face was somewhat helpless. That title, of course it was important. Leading a large army and defeating the Neon Ronin organization head-on, such a reputation could allow a person to quickly rise in Blizzard City, gain a lofty reputation, and have a chance to enter the center of power. He is not a person who covets reputation, and has even less interest in joining Blizzard City. Bai Li Changqing explained. Gao Changkong smiled faintly, perhaps, that's why he was chosen. Zhang Yi walked out after speaking privately with Zhu Zheng and picked up Yang Xinxin who was holding flour, and the two of them went downstairs together. When they arrived at the first floor, Bai Li Changqing, who had already been waiting here for a long time, hastily waved. Hey, Zhang Yi. This way. Zhang Yi saw Gao Changkong and Gu Man, and in his heart, he wondered what kind of attitude they had. There was definitely disappointment inside Gao Changkong's heart, and there was also the possibility that he might harbor a grudge against Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was well prepared, but since he was going to besiege Eclipse Moon, an exchange with the head of the reincarnation squad could not be avoided. Zhang Yi walked over and greeted them with a smile. Captain Gao, Ms. Gu, nice to see you again. When he saw Zhang Yi, Gao Changkong's face broke into a polite smile. He extended his hand and said to Zhang Yi, congratulations, you have become the captain of the Tengu squad. From now on, we are partners, so please give me your advice. Zhang Yi saw that Gao Changkong's attitude was quite good, so naturally he didn't hold back and shook his hand. My position as captain is only temporary, and I will step down after completing my mission. I will need Captain Gao's guidance for the next operation. Gao Changkong said, not at all. Are you free today? I'd like to invite you to dinner, and we can talk about our future cooperation. Zhang Yi, of course, had no reason to refuse. Gao Changkong treated them to a nice restaurant in Area A. Gao Changkong explains the reason for their visit in a straightforward manner. I have already received news from Commander Zhu about Captain Zhang. Among the Eclipse Moon's mutants, some can predict the future, while Captain Zhang can block the other party's abilities. Therefore, I hope to use this to formulate a battle plan. Because I believe that the most important reason why the Heavenly God Squad was defeated by Eclipse Moon was that the other party knew all of their actions. I don't want to repeat the same mistake, so I would like to ask for your support in this area during the operation. Zhang Yi nodded after hearing this and also said, I am not a mutant who is good at attacking. The commander let me lead the team simply because I am a relatively steady person and also have the factor of blocking the opponent's prophecies. So when we fight against Eclipse Moon, we will have to rely on you guys for combat power. Gao Changkong gave a slight smile. Speaking of which, the premise of cooperation is mutual understanding. And we don't know each other's abilities very well. He put down his glass of white wine and said, then let me introduce my abilities first. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed with surprise. Gao Changkong was going to reveal his abilities to him? That was the most important secret of every mutant, and even close relatives might not know it. This is embarrassing, that's your precious secret, Zhang Yi said politely. Unexpectedly, Gao Changkong said, actually, my abilities are not really a secret. Seeing Zhang Yi's suspicious look, Gao Changkong explained, in Blizzard City, we have complete information on the mutants, especially our captains. There are no secrets from the higher-ups. Everyone works in the same place, and we often come into contact with each other. There are also opportunities to fight and cooperate. So it's impossible to keep everything a secret. Besides, my abilities are a bit special. Even if they were to be discovered, I wouldn't worry about it. When Gao Changkong said this, Zhang Yi glanced at Bai Li Changqing next to him without being noticed. Bai Li Changqing laughed and said, I can testify to this, it's true. An ability you're not afraid of people knowing about? Zhang Yi was intrigued. To be fair, Bian Zhengwu and Deng Shentong's abilities were also like this. Because they were too powerful, even if you knew about their abilities, it would be difficult to crack them. Unless you were a mutant with the same level of ability. I'm all ears, Zhang Yi said. Gao Changkong smiled and spoke of his ability. My ability is reincarnation. Ability codename, Death is Reincarnation. That's right, it's the Reincarnation Squad's version of reincarnation. I can reincarnate between life and death. Whenever I die, I will return to a period of time before death. Well, as for the time period, I'll keep that a little secret for now. Anyway, generally speaking, I cannot be killed. And I can collect information in advance through reincarnation. This can enable me to avoid danger and effectively collect information about my opponents. After listening, Zhang Yi let out a long breath on the spot. Another ability user who cannot be killed. There was a Phoenix Run before, and here comes another reincarnation ability user. What the hell? Starting from scratch in the end of the Ice Age? These guys at the captain level are one monster after another. Hearing Zhang Yi's feelings, Bai Li Changqing couldn't help but retort, you're the same. Gao Changkong smiled and looked at Zhang Yi. My ability, in a sense, can actually circumvent the other party's prophecy. He crossed his arms on the table, looking confident. I've studied the other party's ability. Although there is the law of cause and effect involved, the scope of her prophecies is limited. Otherwise, the female ninja would not have been killed by Deng Shentong, and the other 4 would not have been killed by you. Therefore, the opponent's abilities are not omniscient. If I encounter them, I can use the first opportunity to test their abilities and tactics. Then trigger the cycle and change the strategy to deal with it. Zhang Yi keenly discovered something. Your ability can only be triggered once? Gao Changkong nodded approvingly. Good insight. My ability can only be triggered once a day, starting from the time the cycle is triggered and ending when the same time is reached for the second time. He gave an example. For example, if I activate my ability at this moment, it will be 12:51 noon. Then the next time I can activate my ability, I will have to wait until the timeline reaches the present again, and then another day will pass, and I can only use it at 12:51 tomorrow. All of this is recorded in the records of the greater region, and I have no need to deceive you. So please believe me. Even so, it was still a very perverted ability. Bai Li Changqing added in a timely manner, but so far, there have been very few people who can make him trigger his abilities. It is often the case that he triggers his abilities on his own initiative. Zhang Yi nodded knowingly. He looked at Gao Changkong and said, in other words, even without using your abilities, you are very strong in your own right. Gao Changkong smiled broadly and shrugged his shoulders. If you want to be the captain, you can't rely on tricks alone. You need real strength. Zhang Yi looked at Gao Changkong, who was sitting opposite to him, with gentle eyes. Gao Changkong was tall and handsome. The sunshine and energetic feeling that basketball players naturally exude easily gave people a positive and optimistic impression. Zhang Yi took a sip in silence. Then let me talk about my abilities too. He briefly introduced his abilities. Except for the hidden skill Void Spear, he talked about all the other skills. There was no point in concealing this information, and the Jiangnan region had already collected it a long time ago. By sharing it, he gave the impression of being open and honest. However, he only talked about the effects of his supernatural powers, but avoided talking about his actual abilities. For example, how much destructive power Divine Might had, and what the maximum attack was that the dimensional gate could absorb and accommodate. And the distance of the space shuffle, and so on. He knew full well that it was the same as if he were concealing the Void Spear skill and the strength of his supernatural powers. Gao Changkong must have also been hiding things from him. Just knowing the characteristics of the ability without knowing the specific data may not necessarily allow you to do something about it. Gao Changkong also didn't tell him how long the ability Death is Reincarnation could be used before returning to death. Gao Changkong and Gu Man were silent for a moment after listening to Zhang Yi's explanation. Because based on the information provided by Zhang Yi, it can only be reflected that Zhang Yi is a mutant who is good at defense. If defense is 10, then attack can only be 1. Divine Might is certainly powerful, but other methods of attack are lackluster. More often than not, Zhang Yi's methods of attack rely heavily on firearms. However, they do not know the numerical value of Zhang Yi's current strength. Therefore, they do not understand how lethal Zhang Yi's combat power is with the origin bullets, given his exclusive weapon Thunderstrike, the bonus from his supernatural powers in space, and his adaptation of the origin bullets. Both sides gave a brief account of their respective abilities, and they got to know each other a little. In this way, even if there is cooperation in the future, they will not be ignorant of each other. In short, I hope that we can cooperate well and complete this mission together. The eclipse moon must be destroyed, at any time, without fail. Only by destroying the eclipse moon will there be peace. Gao Changkong said to Zhang Yi with a serious face. Zhang Yi nodded. I feel the same way. The few of them had a simple meal and had a pretty good chat. After all, there was Bai Li Changqing, the lubricant, in the middle, so even though Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin didn't really like talking to strangers, the atmosphere wasn't too awkward. This meal was Gao Changkong's way of showing Zhang Yi his stance. It proved that he didn't resent Zhang Yi for losing command of the operation. It wasn't just for Zhang Yi's benefit, but also for the Blizzard City executives to see, as a show of respect. After the meal, Zhang Yi took Yang Xinxin back to the villa. Yang Xinxin, who couldn't help but ask, Brother, do you have any opinion of Gao Changkong? Zhang Yi heard this and looked up, smiling faintly. It's not that I have an opinion. What kind of person is he and what does it matter to me? It's just that I'm very interested in his abilities. Zhang Yi sat on the sofa, and Yang Xinxin sat next to him tenderly, her big eyes staring at his profile, shining like countless little stars. Zhang Yi leaned back against the sofa and said leisurely, I was just wondering how far back his ability, death reincarnation, can be reset to. If, every time he is reborn, he can go back 3 days, it would also mean that he would have 3 times the time of normal people. 7 days ago, that's 7 times. 10 days ago, that's 10 times. Zhang Yi's eyes were solemn. In that case, as long as he keeps using this ability, he will gain much more time than other people. Plus the ability to know the future trajectory in advance, there are simply countless things he can accomplish. Even if he just uses it to improve his own strength, even if his talent is poor, he can become a first-class master. Not to mention that he is a basketball superstar in his own right, with a physique that surpasses the ordinary. Therefore, Zhang Yi folded his arms. This supernatural ability to bend time must have given him incredible power. This was what Zhang Yi was worried about. Anyone who masters the rules of time represents infinite possibilities. Their growth rate is far faster than that of others. Zhang Yi also somewhat understood why Gao Changkong was able to climb from the lowest level to his current position. But at this moment, Yang Xinxin's mouth curled up slightly. She tilted her head slightly mischievously and asked slowly, But, brother, do you really believe that Gao Changkong has the abilities you described? Zhang Yi was slightly startled when he heard this. Gao Changkong definitely won't reveal everything to me. But in terms of abilities, there's no point in him lying to me. After all, his abilities are not a big secret among the upper echelons of Blizzard City. Yang Xinxin's dark gem-like eyes twinkled. Well, nevertheless, I always felt that his abilities were very strange. Human beings really have the ability to reverse the timeline of this world? This sentence brought Zhang Yi's thoughts back to the time of his rebirth. Zhang Yi nodded. Maybe it really is possible. Yang Xinxin didn't understand why Zhang Yi was so sure. But according to what he said, he can freely distort time and constantly change history within the cycle of a day. This is no longer the realm of humans. It is the realm of gods, Yang Xinxin said slowly. Zhang Yi was silent for a long time. He then said, perhaps his limit is not just Delta-level mutant. But who knows? He shrugged his shoulders. It was difficult to verify the truth of other people's supernatural abilities, especially those involving the time domain. After all, he could reincarnate, but you couldn't. Ah, it seems like Zhang Yi can too. However, at the moment, he had yet to discover the activation code for this ability of his. He couldn't just let himself die and conduct an experiment, could he? That would be ridiculous. Anyway, there's no need to think about that right now. I'm the captain of the Tengu squad, and I need to meet with my team members next. I also need to have the Black Robe Squad and Heavenly God Squad train together in preparation for the Eclipse Moon, which will appear again at some point. Zhang Yi had no personal grudges against the Reincarnation Squad. So there was no need to be overly cautious with them. At most, they might compete with him for credit when they carried out missions. But Zhang Yi was certain of one thing, they did not disagree on the matter of eliminating the Eclipse Moon. Just as Zhang Yi was pondering how to integrate the squad in Blizzard City, a movement to create a god around him quietly kicked off. After 3 days, Deng Yuanbo called on Zhang Yi to come over to see Liang Yu's results. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin arrived at Deng Manor. They waited inside the living room of Deng Yuanbo. Although Zhang Yi's face tried to remain calm, the way he kept glancing at the doors exposed the nervousness and anticipation he felt inside. What would Liang Yu look like? He wondered, a little excited and a little nervous. Soon after, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin saw Liang Yu. She was still the same as she was at the beginning, with her heroic eyebrows raised, her hair tied into a high ponytail, and a white power suit that encapsulated her well-trained body. It seems that not much has changed. But the nature of people sometimes requires that we look beyond appearances to the essence. Zhang Yi knows that her inner self must have definitely changed.